Well, hey everybody, how are you doing? Good to see you guys again.
Howdy,
Another
howdy.
week, another episode of Saab Talk Live, the internet's only weekly webcast for guys who love Saabs, care about Saabs, and try to keep their old cars on the road. I'm Lee Kelso.
I'm Mark Romisher, and this week we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. A
Yep.
Saab that was special purpose built with safety in mind, as well as maintaining airports across the United States.
Yeah, if you guys were at SOC, you saw this car out in the parking lot. It was a big hit. This is the Saab friction tester, a
hmm
specially built model that we found out this thing. If you were building it today, or if you bought this car today, it would be over $200,000. And there's a lot of history and interesting use behind these cars. One another example of how Saab just kind of was out there on the leading edge doing things a little bit differently. So Ben Hinkle is going to join us in just a minute. We're going to talk about his car that we all saw at SOC. But Mark, before we jump into that, I want to take a quick look back through some auction action. That's one of
Absolutely.
the things that we like to do around here is just keep an eye on what's happening in the market. What's the value of our cars these days?
hmm
And check this guy out.
Yeah, I heard you talking about the auctions on cars and bids. I think Bring a Trailer has a couple examples, and
Yep.
man, it's been you told me about this 2011 95 that sell for $15,000 recently, you said?
Boom, there it is, 15,750. Yeah, there's the price. So this was an all-wheel drive model, of course,
hmm
with the six-speed automatic, and that's an impressive number. But check this out over on Bring a Trailer right now. Holy moly, look at that, an 11,000 mile
hmm
2000 Vigan convertible. And look at that price. If you can't see it, guys, it's $32,000 with 4 days to go.
Oof. Those Saabs are going absolutely crazy on those auction sites. I guess because people are starting to recognize how rare they are and how fun and important they are, it must be driving up the value, that's for sure.
Yeah, and over on BAT right now, there are a couple of other Saabs. I think there's a 96 and just a couple others.
hmm
It's been great to see Saab showing up more frequently in the auction sites. So I think that's just a sign that kind of what we have felt for some time, and that is,
hmm
our cars are just becoming recognized again. I think people are kind of coming around and catching the value on the brand. So that's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for people to come around to see the luxurious qualities for the 95. I'm just like a 95 guy. I guess you kind of know that.
I do, I do. Yeah, exactly. Well, tonight our focus is the 900 and a very special type of 900. So let's
Mm,
welcome to the program Ben Hinkle. And Ben, we met you at the Saab Owners Convention. So great to have you here on the program. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for
yeah,
having me.
man.
I'm glad I could spread some information.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping you will be able to do for us. And here is the car that we're going to be talking about tonight. This is your friction tester. So give us the big picture here on what this car is, what it does, and what its role in airport safety happened to be.
So overall, it was decided back in the early 1970s with the increase of air travel, jet aircraft, the higher landing speeds versus the propeller aircraft, that a better way to measure how slippery a runway surface could be, whether it from snow and ice buildup in the wintertime, or whether it be from rubber buildup during aircraft landings during the summertime and when it rains. It was designed as a way to measure how slippery exactly a runway would be.
Mhm.
So, Ben, you're talking about friction on the runways. So, I guess things built up on the runways, they have to test out, when airplane tires hit that tarmac, how safe is it for those planes to land? That's kind of like the gist, right?
That's right. Think about it this way: you've got a passenger jet with a number of passengers on board, coming down to a runway in, could be Fargo, North Dakota, or it could be
hmm
Syracuse, New York, where I grew up. Um,
hmm
could be some snow and ice accumulation, and you want to know that jet is going to be able to stop when it reaches the end of the runway,
Oh, gotcha.
versus going, beyond the runway, which what would be called a runway excursion.
Oh, wow. That's good stuff.
So the way that they did this is really pretty interesting, and we're going to show you the internals on this kind of a line drawing. So talk us through the what we're looking at here.
So towards the back of the car, that's where you're going to see a lot of the technology. That's a hydraulically operated swing arm with a very specific test tire. That test tire is made out of natural rubber, and it's designed to mimic an aircraft's landing gear. The way the whole system works is a hydraulic switch run off of the power steering pump will raise and lower the arm depending on input from the computer in the dash area. This will also and then take a little bit of weight off the rear end, and that's going to mimic the landing weight of the aircraft. And it will slip at about 12% the rate of the regular tires. And that slip is then translated to a chain drive connected to a torque sensor, which will then send a digital readout or a readout back into the car's computer for printout and for instant readout of friction.
So here's the look through the hatch, and that wheel that we're seeing is underneath that black floor panel. We'll get to that in a second. What's that big white tank there, Ben?
So that's the water tank. Typically, it's a 500-liter tank, and that's connected to a nozzle directly in front of the test tire. And that's able to mimic a downpour where opening the valve would send that water right in front of that rear tire, and that would help mimic hydroplaning. Whether or not the runway is a clean surface and the water is being channeled away properly, or if a little bit too much rubber buildup, just like a slip and slide is occurring, and that'll let you know if you need to go through and clean the rubber off the runway.
And I thought this was interesting. Where's this little, you can see that labeled water fill. Where is this on the car?
That's on the roof. That's, I would say, the right rear corner. You can see right above the window, but just in front of the hatch. And that has a direct tube going right into the canister or the water tank. And
so here's the business. Here's the business end of things. And so this is the rubber wheel that goes down onto the runway surface itself. And can you control the force that is being held down on, the pressure?
There's a manual up and down, but I don't know if you can actually control the force. I don't know if it's full up and full down, but I believe to do the proper testing, you want it all the way deployed into the downward position.
Gotcha.
Hey, Ben, you mentioned that these cars come equipped with all the manual physical equipment with the tires and all the hydraulics and the water delivery. I actually understand that there's a computer in these guys too, measuring all that data and recording it for all the testers.
Mm-hmm. Yep, up towards the dashboard area, right underneath in the center console, there would be a computer that would measure. It could also transmit the information to the control tower. This photograph shows the lower section having a receipt-style printer, some basic controls with the up and down for the swing arm, and then above that was one of the examples of one of the digital, more digital meters that would also be real-time.
Oh, gotcha.
So what is that data line that we're seeing on this monitor, on this screen? What is that representing?
So that would be representing a typical run in real time with regards to the friction coefficient at varying portions of the runway.
Okay. And so then the air traffic control tower receives this information. Now, what do they do with it?
They would get this information. They would be able to either order the operations department to either close a runway for cleaning, for plowing, for de-icing, or to give, I imagine, the telemetry and information to incoming airplanes with regards to just generally how much braking they can expect to need should the runway be within reason.
Yeah, so Saunders Lee checking in here telling us they were also made in the 9000 and the 95. And yeah, actually they were also, let me just show you here. I think Ben sent me a photo of back some of the early cars. Here's a 99 is when this all started. Yeah.
The one I'm seeing up on the screen, I believe, is one of the early 900s.
Oh, I've got a 99 up here, I think. Maybe not. Yeah, it's got the soccer ball wheels.
Yep. So to my best research, I think about 50 were built off of the 99 chassis, and I estimate about 210 were built off the 900 chassis.
There you go. And so this photo, what do you know any of the details behind this? So obviously that's Finn Air back there, so the Finnish
Mhm.
Airways. What do we know about this picture?
This is one of the earlier cars. I'm not sure if this would be one of the first one, the very first one, or what. Trying to track down the specific numbers of them is difficult. I'm usually able to better find the ones that are still in active duty. But this is an early car and probably one of the original test vehicles. I was able to get a hold of a press kit while I was at SOC. I'm just going to hold it up to the camera real quick.
Okay, let me get you full screen there. You got it?
All right. So those, if those weren't the same car, those were both probably the very, very first vehicles.
Cool.
Good question there. Do you know, do they come from the factory in the yellow that we've seen in all these other cars?
A lot of them were originally painted Cirrus white and then repainted. I believe it's a specific Swedish road transportation safety yellow, which would probably be the same as our school bus yellow. But I've also seen them in dark green. I've seen them in cardinal red, and I believe white as well. So they could be optioned in specific colors based on probably the airport's needs.
You know, you mentioned earlier, Ben, that interesting. You said that ones that are still active are easier to find. Are there still Saab friction testers in use today?
So there are definitely Saab friction testers in use today. The 900s that I tend to find are usually more retired, and they happen to come up on surplus auction here and there.
Okay.
And in those cases, each car, while Saab was still part of the program up until General Motors entered the picture, they received a stamping on the inner fender well on the right-hand side.
Okay.
And these are the serial number that are specific to the car, and a good way you can kind of trace the airport they came from if good records were kept.
Oh, cool.
Now, your car, tell me the history of your car. Was it actually, here it is outside the Albany Airport in New York. Did it actually do service there?
It did. It served Albany for 2 seasons, probably the winter of '05 and probably the winter of '06. It was on loan. It had been serving Boston Logan since late 1986, and they were due for a replacement. They ended up getting a 2005 9.5 wagon. And following them using this car, this went to Albany for the 2 seasons while they awaited their 9.5 as well, which I believe is a 2006 model. So from there, it actually ended up at Ithaca Tompkins. And then after sitting out in the field for about 10 years, it went up for surplus auction. And that's how I got a hold of it.
And okay, so got to ask, what'd you pay for it?
After the auction fees, it was only about $230 some odd dollars. It
Good
had
for
some
you.
holes in the floors. Half the hydraulic fluid had saved the passenger side, but I believe the driver's side window was open that entire time.
Yeah.
And
wow.
it was being advertised as not having a title. After about 6 months worth of work, I was able to convince somebody at Albany Airport to go into a records drawer, and they were actually able to find the title, still signed over from the Secretary of Massport in Massachusetts, and never titled in anybody else's name.
Wow,
That's
how about
awesome.
that? And what do you do with this car now?
Right now, I like taking it to shows. It's not functional, so I just take it to Cars and Coffee, different local shows, both Carlisle and SOC this year, and just have it out there so people could see some of the differences that are out there. You know, it's not a C900 convertible or an Edwardian Gray SPG. It's a little something different.
Yeah.
And it's neat to have it out there.
Well, it was sure a hit at SOC. There was always a crowd around it, and then you found these documents that are, I think, pretty interesting. So this is the Massachusetts Port Authority bid proposal. This is when they were buying the car, right?
Yep. This came with some of the information with the car. It was $86,981 brand new in late 2000 or late 1986. So that's astonishing amount. I went into a little detail back in Albany about why this was. The FAA basically came out with a decree saying, you know, we all need to start measuring this friction, and we're going to start offering FAA grants to airports to purchase these, and airports just said, "Sure, if the money's free, let's get one ordered up."
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, okay. Yeah, it makes sense. That's how government works, right? Uh,
Yep.
but these weren't just used domestically. I'm going to pull up. We just snagged this off of YouTube a moment ago. You turned me on to this, Ben. So tell me what we're looking at here. This video.
So this is just one of the better videos, my favorite videos from YouTube. It's a Russian aviation video, and in a few moments we'll be able to see some winter operations, including a 900 friction tester.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch them. I mean, it's Russia, right? So yeah, they're dealing with a lot of snow, and it's just kind of we'll let this roll so people can see how the Russians dealt with the weather out there. That's kind of interesting. So there's a real community around these friction testers. Tell me more about that.
We've got a small Facebook group for friction tester owners. It's also for folks that have assisted with restoration of them. A couple guys from the actual retail establishment out in Sweden, Sarsis SFT. There it goes. And
Yep.
they're always happy to provide photographs. Unfortunately, a lot of the newer ones are based on Volvos, but the guys still have, they're nice enough to send some pictures of some of the newer Volvos that are being outfitted.
Jeff Hoffman asking, do you plan on restoring this car?
If money was no object, that'd probably definitely be something I'd want to do. But I think just kind of trying to preserve it in the working class way that it exists today is probably the best thing that can be done for it.
Gotta love that patina.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's nothing but age and love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look at that. Richard saying he remembers seeing that car out in Ithaca for years.
Mhm.
Yep, that one and another one were both bought out of Ithaca in two separate auctions. And yeah, unfortunately, that car apparently had sat out there for quite some time.
So I'm just letting this video roll because I kind of dig seeing these Russians dealing with this snow. That's a big operation they've got going on there. Yeah. So Michael Kennedy asking, how fast were these cars going while they were testing?
So according to a few of the articles I've read, including some old episode or articles in Saab soundings, they could accurately test up to 100 miles an hour, which is pretty impressive that you'd be doing that in snowy conditions on a runway.
Why not?
Yeah, that's what Saabs are built for, right? Yeah, how about that? So I think it's just real interesting that Saab was, that committed to aviation and safety and all that stuff all those years ago. Do we know why they were at the lead of all of this? Did they develop this technology? Was this something that somebody brought to them?
Yeah, it was developed through their heritage with the defense and aviation industry.
Mhm.
The Swedish Aviation Administration, whatever their acronym is, did want to have a little bit better understanding of this. They were using them to measure both runways, and they also were using them quite frequently to measure road friction as well. They were developing different technologies for that.
And you mentioned Volvo having taken the lead, and so here's where there's the OG, and then the modern version, the Volvo version.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, is the mechanism essentially the same in the back end? I assume it's been updated over time, right?
From a lot of the images, most of the mechanism does look fairly original, fairly close to the original system, which was the hydraulic operation, counterweight, and then the aviation tire. Sure, tiny little details. Maybe the electronics have gotten a little bit better over the years, but from the manufacturing photos I've seen, they do look very similar.
And you stole yours. Did we cover yet what the auction price for these have been? Where the market's at on these? Because obviously they're collectible, right?
They are both mine and the one that came out of Dallas Fort Worth were very, very inexpensive. I think the Dallas Fort Worth car was less than 200. Mine was about 230 after the auction fees. But I've also seen cars coming out of Burlington, Vermont, Seattle, Tacoma. Burlington went for around 2,000 on eBay about 5 years ago, and Seattle Tacoma this past year was about 5,000. The most recent sold was a high number car, so fairly new, I think it was a 1992. It had an SPG kit on it for some reason. That went for over 13,000.
That's awesome. A friction tester with an SPG kit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you need that aero package. You know, that makes the difference.
And then Saunders
ahead.
was asking if they use studded or just winter tires. The spare tire in mine does have a set of studs on them, and the photograph I have of mine from Boston looks like it had a set of steel wheels on the front and the sunbursts on the back. So I'm sure they had pretty decent tires to go through the snow.
So there you go. Oh, so there, your spares got studs, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So let's take a look under the hood real quick. And can you walk us through? I mean, this looks like all very standard kind of 900 turbo stuff.
Yeah, most of it's going to be fairly standard. If you look to the upper right-hand corner by the power distribution area, there's two silver lines coming out from behind a heat shield. Those are the hydraulic lines that go to the swing arm, and those are powered off that large valve or switch that's then powered off of the power steering pump. Mine actually had a small leak in it, and it's fairly easy to bypass them. It's just a matter of routing disconnecting one tube and looping the other into itself. And that resolved my power steering leak. But that would be the way to mechanically control it.
Cool. Well, I think this is just a real interesting example of how Saab was always thinking differently until you know who got a hold of them, right? And then was that just a financial decision?
I'm not sure what the exact reasoning was, but it was in the early 90s. I think they went through the passenger car department and said, well, what's this little project you guys have going on over here? We just want to sell passenger cars. If this is going to be something that's going to be done, this should be a separate company, and that portion was sold off.
Well, that's kind of the story of Saab, isn't it? That's kind of sad.
Oh, well. It busts me up because when you think about it, you think about other iconic cars that have specific purposes. Some were time machines, some were in popular TV shows back in the 80s, and then you have Saab because they want to be friction testers. GM is just the killer of dreams at this point, in my opinion, and it's just they seem to do a rather more efficient job at it as they go along, unfortunately.
So I want to point out here that the story of the friction tester is online now at Hemmings Motor News. Fellow Saab buddy Mark McCourt was the author of this story, and Ben, I think you contributed a lot of information to it. So if you want to read more about these cars, it's not displaying real well right here on the screen, but yeah, just pop over to Hemmings Motor News and you'll be able to find it over there. So good that they're giving us a little love over there. And hey, they also just recently covered the SOC with a nice photo gallery over at Hemmings as well. So that is great. Well, I think we're ready to wrap things up here. Ben, anything you want to add? Anything you want to leave us with?
Yeah, just another little interesting bit. After that FAA grant, the production from 77 to 1985, about 100 cars were built. And then from 1985 to 86, another 100 cars were built. So you saw a big boom right in that middle 80s era that saw also the 9000 and the 900 convertible come out. So people talk about that being a great time for Saab. The help from the FAA with the friction testers probably helped a little bit too.
So you're up there in the Northeast. If somebody wants to get a good look at this car, do you know of any events you're going to be taking it to in the near future?
I don't have anything planned for the rest of the year. It was Carlisle and SOC this year. I'm outside of the DC metropolitan area, so from time to time I'll take it to the local Cars and Coffee out here. And I know there's going to be a show coming up at the Rhinebeck Aerodrome, but I've towed it to New York once this year, and I'll probably not be able to make it again this year with it.
Yeah. I don't blame you for that one. That's a lot of effort. Well, listen, I sure appreciate your time tonight and telling us about this little piece of Saab history. Very interesting, and good on you for saving this thing for all of us.
All right. Well, I'm happy to do it. Hopefully I can get a few more and save those too.
You want a collection. Your wife's going to put up with 3 or 4 of these yellow birds out in the driveway, is she?
I might have to sell a black Vigan, but yeah.
All right. Hey, Ben, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Ben.
Well, that was pretty interesting, I thought, Mark. Interesting to see
that's good stuff.
those guys are doing.
I mean, I learned a little bit about the friction testers myself when I was up at the owners convention, and because Ben actually had a presentation he did there as well. So really cool stuff, and then saw a lot of the stories there. Like I'd mentioned before the show, Ben was talking about a story about a high-ranking official at one of the airports. He wanted to take one of the friction testers out just for testing, and apparently the particular story behind this particular car was that when it had a faulty blower motor fan and it was particularly cold and it didn't work, so he pulled the fuse out before this high official came and borrowed it, and then he brought it back like 10 minutes later freezing his buns off. So I thought that was a funny story about guys keeping the Saabs close at hand.
You do what you got to do.
That's right.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all your comments. Share this video around. Let's tell some more people about these crazy Saab friction testers.
Mm-hmm.
And we will see you next week. Take care, guys.
Take it easy, guys.